the concept of opting out, and this is part of what the NFL and the NFL Players Association inevitably is currently discussing. And they need to get it worked out sooner rather than later. On Thursday, players are going to be talking about these issues. At some point, a deal needs to be done between the league and the union, or you can't have training camp. And maybe in this deadline-driven sport, they take it right up to July 28th before they have an agreement. But one facet of this agreement must be that players retain the right to tap out if they decide they don't feel safe in any environment, their locker room, practice, field, game, whatever the case may be. Now, I think the NFL will probably push for a speak now or forever hold your peace approach, where before the start of training camp, you have to say you're in or you're out. I haven't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me if the league doesn't push for that. That seems to be an obvious position the NFL would want. We want to know at the outset who's in, who's out. I don't think that's good enough, because for the players who are showing up on July 28th, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what it's going to look like. They don't know how it's going to feel. Do you really want a guy who is on the team, in the locker room, on the field, who develops a realistic fear, a realistic distress and concern over the way things are being handled? If he doesn't feel safe in that environment, why are you requiring him to stay in that environment? So I think that players need to have the power at any time this season, whenever they see fit, to say, I'm out. And then I think they need to have a period of time after that where they can say, I'm back in. I don't think it should be a revolving door where you can say, I'm out on October 10, I'm back in on October 17, I'm out again on October 31. I'll let you know if I'm coming back before Thanksgiving. There needs to be a procedure that's fair, and maybe you only get one leave and return, and then if you leave the second time, you can't come back. These are all things that need to be hammered out. And it's unavoidable. And let's be realistic. I don't want to be cynical here. I want to be realistic based upon what I've learned over the past 20 years of covering the sport. I feel like some players may be tempted to use the opportunity to opt out as a way to maybe get a better contract for reasons unrelated to the coronavirus. Now, let me say this. There could be a player who says, you know what, I feel like I'm underpaid. I'm going to threaten to not play this year, even though I have a contract, and I can't hold out because I'd be fined $50,000 a day, and I'd have other penalties if I hold out. I give up my salary. I tap out. I don't play because of the coronavirus, and if they want me to play, well, they better give me what I want financially, and then I will not exercise my right to tap out. But there will be some players who look at this as a financial proposition. How much is enough to get you to assume that risk? See, there's been talk about the players possibly taking less this year, give backs under the salaries that are paid out to the players. That bubbled up a few weeks ago via NFL media. I think it was kind of a trial balloon that was being floated to see how the fans would react, see how the union would react. Look, if I'm a player and I'm fully cognizant of the risks that I already am assuming in a normal year, and now in 2020, I'm going to have this additional stress, this additional burden, this additional risk that I'm going to be made ill, that I'm going to expose my family members to illness and potentially to death, depending upon their risk factors. I'm tempted to say, you should pay me more to do this. You should eat into your profit margin to do this, because you, owner of the team, will not be taking these same risks. You, owner of the team, will at all times be protected by whatever device you have created to seclude yourself from everyone else. Just staying home, being in a box that is fully and completely ventilated with no one else in there on game day. I don't know how many owners will even go to the stadium on game day. The bottom line is the risks are fundamentally different. And so if you do create a system that allows players to opt out, the reality is you introduce a new factor for negotiation to get players to not opt out. And you've got two categories. The player who legitimately looks at this and says, for $1.5 million this year, it's not worth it. If you want to make it more worth it, I'll consider it. But all things considered here, with all the factors balancing, given what you're paying me, I'd rather not play. Oh, you're paying me more than what I'm due to make? Well, now it's starting to balance out. And then at some point, you tip the scale in the direction of the guy saying, I'll do it. That's reality. And the other reality is there will be guys who aren't worried about the virus at all, but see it as an opportunity with the consultation of their agents, who I guarantee you will be thinking through these issues and will give us every reason to be as cynical as we can be about this. There will be agents who tell a guy, hey, look, I know you don't care about the virus, but maybe you should. Well, what do you mean? I don't care about it. I'm not worried about it. I'm healthy. I'm young. We're living with me who are at risk. Maybe you should. Maybe you want to think this through a little bit more there before you make a final decision. Maybe there's a way that we can play this to get you a better contract, to get you an extension, to get you whatever. Look at Chris Jones, right? Chris Jones can say, I'm not comfortable playing this year under the franchise tag, given the risks of playing. I'm a big guy. I don't know what his BMI is, but anybody with a BMI of over 30 is in a position where there's a heightened risk. And if you've ever seen one of those BMI charts, there's a lot of people who are in the upper 20s and 30s who you wouldn't think are that high on the overall scale. But that to me is a very real factor in these negotiations. And that's what takes it from the negotiations between the players and the league collectively and makes it an individualized thing that can just go off the rails. You could have a rash of players. You could have a stampede of players who are saying, I'm not playing this year unless you give me more, whether it's because they want more to offset the risk of playing in a pandemic, or they just want more because they want more anyway and they could care less about the risk. They just see this as an opportunity to get more. It's a fascinating dynamic. And it's another reason why, no matter how hard I try to make myself optimistic about this, I look at these issues, I look at this circumstance, I pay close attention to the news. And I, like Rodney Harrison on yesterday's PFTPM, like Bill Cower in comments he made to Ed Bouchette of The Athletic, I just don't know how they're going to pull this off. And I feel like the attitude and the approach is, let's just see how it goes. And I feel like that attitude, that strategy is not a winning strategy. Not that there's a better one, but the NFL had the benefit of a significant head start here. And I don't know that the NFL has made full use of its head start. And I'm not surprised. We say it all the time. The NFL is not proactive. The NFL is reactive. And I think we're going to see a lot of reacting in July and August. And the problem is, when it's time to react, when it's time to pivot to plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, part of what we're going to hear is, well, that plan would have worked if that would have been plan A. And because we didn't plan for that from March and just assumed plan A would work, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan whatever isn't going to be feasible, isn't going to be practical. And the primary example there is the bubble concept. There's no way in hell they're going to throw a bubble together on the fly. So could we see the same thing we've seen from other sports? Maybe it does get postponed. Maybe we do have a late February Super Bowl. Maybe we have a March, April, or May Super Bowl. And then when in the hell do you start the next season? A lot of questions, a lot of issues, a lot of basis for realistic concern, and not a lot of information allowing anyone who pays attention to the sport on a regular basis to come to the conclusion that they have a plan that will work.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.